Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I am positively wearing my Chicken Palooza 2021 gig. I got the new. This is sort of dreamy. It's a space theme this year because the chicken's out of this world. So we'll be talking a lot about Chicken Palooza, the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, which will touch into Howard County, where this guy calls home. It has been so long, too long, far too long to get together with a guy I've known professionally, personally, socially, through a lot of hockey, a lot of formerly football. Sitting below me, I would see the jersey down there in section 113 below me. Ed Frankovic returns. You can find him still at WNST.net. I found that out when I invited him on via Zoom. Dude, I feel upside down in our relationship, man. I feel like I haven't called you often enough. I know you're busy. You got like 14 kids and 28 hockey leagues, and you're still watching Caps games, and you're pissed off at least until they get eliminated, which is far too early in these seasons. But it is good to have you on. People ask me about you. They're like, how's Ed? And I'm like, I haven't been to a hockey game with Ed in like 3 years.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Ness. Good to talk to you. I think the last time we talked was Caps Islanders playoffs last year, right before the series started. And I said, if the Caps don't show up, they're going to lose. Because you and I have a fondness for Barry Trotz from our days back working for the Caps. Me working for the Caps in the 80s. You covered them for the paper and being the only beat writer there in Baltimore. And our fondness for Barry and what a great person he is. We did 4 radio shows together when he was here in Washington. We won Stanley Cup. You got to take your wife out there we went together for games 1 and 2. Jen got to go to game 5. We were at the pinnacle of where we were, you and I, for hockey, right? Because we chased this holy grail of the cup for so many
life.
years.
And way more you than me. And the same would be true if the Orioles ever win. I would say, Luke was out there every night. I wasn't. If I'm 64 years old, we have a parade here for the baseball team, and it all comes full circle. I mean, people ask me, like, do I run from my relationship with the Caps? No. I mean, when they moved into the city, when they changed to the St. Louis Blues uniforms, when Dale Hunter was being a cheap shot artist in every corner, I drifted, you know what I mean? For a long, long time, I rooted against them because I had a bad situation with Ted Leonsis, and I have a bad situation with Ted Leonsis right now because he lied to me. So, I sat here for a decade doing road trips, telling people that Baltimore mattered, telling them that they were playing games up here, which they were. They were doing events up here, which they were. Then they quit on it, and I brought Barry Trotz up here. It was the only thing during the entire Trotz era they did in Baltimore were 4 appearances with you and I where we sat and talked about chasing the Stanley Cup and what it would mean for a kid like you and your dad. Your dad was in the journalism business. I was in the journalism business in the 80s. You got into the business, and Todd Button, and these relationships you had and relationships I had with Terry Murray and Doug McClain, and that go on to this day, right? I mean, all that I've carried my whole life. I met my wife at a hockey game, right? So you take all that with you, and then you finally win the Stanley Cup, and then it's, what do I do with it? And I kind of remembered that feeling when the Ravens won the first Super Bowl. And what I did was go write a book. Like, I came back from the parade and all of that, and I've re-earthed that videotape now, whatever it was, 21 years later. And, you say, what's the next thing you do? And Brian Billick and Phil Savage and Marvin Lewis at that time, they're like, we went back to work the next day, and like we had to figure out what we were doing with Dilfer and that's what you do when you win a championship. This Capitals thing, and it felt like Ed, my wife and I had a discussion, a family debate, an argument about whether it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, because we couldn't remember. Like, was it 18 or was it 17? What year was Ovechkin drunk this time, diving into public squares, and they're carrying the cup? I felt like it was 4 years ago, but it was 3 years ago, right? It was
2018, correct. Jen was right. The boss is always right.
Well, but as it goes, it feels like a long, long time ago to me. I haven't been to a hockey game since. I'll be really honest, Eddie. I've watched more hockey, and maybe this speaks to you being on the show right now. I mean, I love you, and I would put you on any time, and we talk some Ravens, some Orioles. Your kids are playing hockey, but like I've watched hockey this week. Like the New York Islanders in the middle of June, when the Orioles are in last place, and I'm talking about Grayson Rodriguez, and I'm chasing Cheap Trick around, and I'm having Stevie Whiteman on the show this week, and I'm having the Crack the Sky guys on the show this week because Wise Markets is sponsoring the Heritage Fair in Dundalk. So I'm trying to get back into the music thing. The fact that they're playing hockey on 92-degree days at the end of June, and it's not even like the finals, but I have been like, next game's 8 o'clock, Monday night, Tuesday night. Like, when's the next game? And I've been following hockey because of Trotz. And that would really speak to me at 50, almost 53 now, Ed, that I'm about people. I'm not about colors. I'm not about flags. I'm not about, fake ideology and what you say you're going to do. I'm about what you say you're going to do and then what you're going to do when you say you're going to do it and then you do it. And boy, have I been disappointed in many ways by sports. But the Capitals thing, it befuddles me why they didn't bring the Stanley Cup up to Baltimore when they said they would. And that's fine. I mean, there was no backlash here. I'm the only one that's pissed off. I'm pissed off because I was lied to, and I'm from like Dundalk, and your word means something. And Ted Leon's is his word to me. I don't even want to go down there for the Genesis concert. I don't even want to go down there to see the Eagles and give them money because that's how pissed I am on a personal level to be mistreated and to have our city mistreated after they won I'm not even mentioning Trotz. Like how they treated Trotz, that's their business. But it hadn't worked out so well, has it?
No, it hasn't. And it was you and I knew right away it was the wrong move. I mean, we knew Barry, we knew Lane. We knew Mitch. I mean, what that group of assistant coaches, that was a special coaching group. And
dude, I watched them get treated like pariahs in the room with the cup. I watched them celebrate for 4 hours and they were ostracized. We were sitting in the corner. Like I have video. I mean, I witnessed it, and they want me to choke back and put a suit on and come back down to a Capitals game. Come on, man. You got to be kidding me.
It was the two words I'll use to sum it up. It was cheap and arrogant, right? They didn't understand the culture that Barry brought to the team, right? You see it in New York now, right? They've won 5 playoff series. The Capitals have won 0 since they made that change. So much of hockey is culture and bonding and committing to what you're doing. And you see what happened with the Capitals this year. Kuznetsov continues to do whatever he wants to do. And he took the young goalie along with him, Samsonov, and they were in COVID protocol twice. I mean, how does that happen, right? How does that happen, right? With the vaccine out and everything going on, these guys go and get themselves right before the playoffs. They get quarantined for 14 days. So, as well as I do watching hockey, the most important position in the playoffs is goaltending. The 4 teams left have all quality goaltenders. The Capitals had no goaltending coming into the playoffs. I mean, Vanacek was playing well, but the minute he got hurt, they had nothing. They had to go to Craig Anderson and then Samsonov coming out of protocol for COVID. Again, that's commitment. They have lost the culture they built for 4 years under Barry Trotz. You see what culture is doing in New York. The Islanders have way less talent than the Capitals. They have way less talent than Tampa, and it's 2-2. They're 2 games away from possibly going to the finals. They have an uphill climb, but that is the culture that Barry brings in, and guys buy into it. And they don't become about the name on the back of the jersey. They become about the logo on the front. And that's the Barry Trotz culture. The Capitals have turned into, it's about the name on the back. Despite guys like Ovechkin and Backstrom, realizing what it took to win. And you could see the quotes from those guys. The minute they decided they were going with Todd, it was like, well, okay, I guess we're going to go with Todd if Todd's going to be the coach. It wasn't anything glowing like, oh, we're happy about this. You could tell the players were definitely not happy when they made the change in the coaching right after they won the cup.
I haven't talked to Trotz. Like I haven't like talk to him. You know what I mean? We've been texting back and forth, but haven't had him on the show, haven't had him off the show. I always have the off-season invite to come to Eastern British Columbia and hang out at the lake, which I'm going to take him up on that and Banff and all that at one point, probably not in a short off-season. This has been the strangest of times, right? Like, talk about his journey a little bit, not just in going up to New York and trying to hold the hockey thing together, but where teams were 15, 16 months ago at the beginning of the plague, which was amping up and ramping up for a playoff run. Everything stops. Then everything stops for 6 months. Then they bubbled, right? They bubbled up and they played some hockey. The Islanders played more than some other teams. Some teams, I mean, the Capitals, it was almost on a par with the Scott Erickson, Albert Bell, Cuba visit. It was almost like, we're hockey players. You want us to play? You want us to do what? And the Capitals didn't post. And they had that little play-in tournament or whatever the hell it was that they were doing that I didn't pay much attention to, right? Like, it was like hockey in a garbage bag. It looked like they put garbage bags all around with logos on it. And they were in Toronto, I saw, and they potted off. And I know I didn't call. Maybe we talked when the Caps played the Islanders 10 months ago. When was it? September? Yeah, it was like that?
September. You and I talked right as the
season. It was so awkward. It was so weird. It was like everything was weird last year. The football season, everything was weird, right? I mean, my brand's weird. Everything, my hair's weird. But I would say for their life and for what they did, and then having to go back and play hockey, some people, no people, you know, like the Canadians hadn't heard fans until last week, right? Like, literally, they had played pickup hockey in a rink for 9 months, more than that, a year. And they hadn't heard fans till they got to Las Vegas. You know, just speak to hockey, because I mean, it's off a lot of people's radar, dude. Like, you're nuts about it. My wife started watching it when the Bruins were playing the Islanders, and she got it because my wife loves sports. My wife's been watching golf all weekend. We've had 12 hours of golf in my house this weekend. It's not because of me. Trust me, dude. I like, literally, my wife loves sports and is much more drawn back into it right now than I am, even though I'm going to a Bay Sox game this week, Eddie.
Well, you know, for years and years, what are the two things that unify everybody, right? Sports and music, right? You know, Kenny Chesney says that at his concerts, right? Sports and music. And you and I both love sports and music. That's our big bond. You've got the Geddy Lee hair going. I love it, because we're both big Rush fans.
I'm a new world man. I'm a rebel and a runner, a signal turning green, a restless young romantic. Go ahead. Keep going. I can go all day.
Open was fantastic. I watched a ton of it. And, I've known your wife since you met her, right? You know, we went on bus trips together up to Hershey before we started going back down to the Caps. And
you can't do better than being like 20 feet from Bruce Boudreau when you meet your wife. You know what I mean? Like, who was 20 feet away from me when I was 15 years old in the first locker room I walked into at a Skipjacks game. So we're all bound by the puck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and it's been, you know, and I know you're just getting back into it, but I watched one of Trotz's press conferences last week, and it was after they beat the Bruins to win the.
By the way, series. I haven't watched any of that. Like, okay. Literally, Eddie, I swear to you, like, the games come on at 8, and I'm like, hey, Kenny Albert's calling the game. He started my career. I love me some Kenny. Hey, there's Barry. They were roommates in Newfoundland when I was doing the radio show, and I would call into Kenny's show, and he would hand the phone to Barry, and this is 1992, man. Like, so all these years later, to be sitting here watching this in my house, in my bed, with like a beer, with my cat on my lap, and Nassau County Coliseum, and like, it's been fun for me. I have no dog in the hunt. I don't know any of the players. I don't know any of their names. I'm not into good guys or bad guys, or even who's a cheap shot artist. Some of the names I recognize because of Tampa and, you know, those guys being on the team from 3 years ago. But like, I'm not vested in any of this other than I'm a fan in the cheap seats, you know, and I haven't press conferenced. I fall asleep in the third period a lot, and I wake up and say, Trotz won. It's that kind of, it's very afar, just so you know. So I can't talk hockey with you.
Right. Yeah. And I'm totally in on Trotz, but it's been fun to watch.
You were saying his press conference. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
So anyway, he talked about the fans is what you were talking about, right? Because they had no fans for a while, right? And Nassau Coliseum was always a rabid place. You and I have been there. I mean, I was there you were there in the 80s with my dad. I was there in the 90s.
Eddie, is this the old building they're in?
They are still in Nassau Coliseum.
I saw the Raptors, and I'm like, I sat there with Phil Jackman in '86. Like I've only been there once in my life, one game, one time.
Okay, so I was there the night Hunter hit the cheap shot on Turgeon. They threw, Sean Simpson and I were on the bus pulling out because he was doing radio then, and they threw.
Oh, dude, I was on a date with a girl that night watching it in the bar.
Yeah, they threw rocks. I said to everybody, we're going to need to duck coming out of here because something's going to happen. They threw rocks at our bus. There were two buses. The players and the coaches were on the other bus. And the nice thing about then was it was me and Mike Herr, the stats, Al Koken, Sean Simpson. You had who was the radio? Ron Weber, right? So back then it was Weber doing the radio. I think Kenny was on there. Kenny was in New York by then. Craig Laughlin was on there with us, and I said, guys, we better duck down. Something's going to happen because we're the first bus out. Sure enough, we got pelted with rocks. I just remember Al Arbor's wife was so upset at Dale Hunter after that hit on Turgeon, and she should have been. But anyways, Nassau Coliseum is just a rabid place, right? It's crazy. And Trotz said the players have loved the fans coming back, and they said it's been really fun for them, and they just want to keep it going.
Yeah, they sing the national anthem every night.
It's awesome. I mean, and the place is a dump. It was a dump when I was last there in '93. They're getting a new rink over at Belmont, a place you and I love, the racetrack there, because we've been.
I saw they were digging it and stuff, but I never saw any opening. And I'm like, Ed, here's a rock and roll thing. You ready? Like, if I pull my Ticketmaster app out, I had Rolling Stones tickets to kick off the tour last year. Peter and I were going to fly to San Diego. They were kicking the tour off at Jack Murphy Stadium. At some point, like in October, on my timeline, they were ripping Jack Murphy Stadium apart.
Right.
At some point, I looked down on my app and saw that the concert had been canceled because the stadium doesn't exist anymore.
So are they moving it though, or did you get your money back? What happened?
No, it's canceled, and apparently they're going to do it at SoFi and my ticket. But I still have my tickets in Pittsburgh, believe it or not, and we have some tickets in Atlanta and Louisville. So we're going to see the Stones whenever. There's an alleged date in Louisville. There's an alleged date in Pittsburgh. I saw Rick Nielsen down at Ramshead this weekend. Big thanks to Laura Price and everybody at Ramshead for being so awesome to us. But Rick and the band, they were great. But being back at a show again and being back in an environment where there's music and it just makes me want to do it more. And I don't know if I'm going to feel that way about the Bay Sox game this week. You've been in hockey rinks the last year and a half, right? Like you've been socially distanced daddy parenting, right?
Yeah. I mean, I coached my youngest this past year, my 9-year-old, I have an 11-year-old. I've been all over the place. We've been to Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. I was in Providence a couple times this spring. So the kids have been playing, right? We've been playing hockey. It's been limited. Some rinks allowed parents in, some didn't. But now it's pretty much back to normal.
This doesn't shock me, dude. Your kids were always going to play hockey, right? I mean, like you making babies, aside from the fun of making babies, this was all about getting your kids on blades, right? Like literally. There's no shock to me that when those babies were made, that I could project out right around 2018 to 25, you'd be freezing your ass off in an ice rink trying to get your kid some scholarship to Brown or something.
It's funny you mentioned Brown. Christian played for a guy who played 4 years at Brown this past year. But
you said Providence, so I just had to throw that out.
Yeah, Brown, that was a beautiful pull there. But yeah, I mean, I've been in rinks. I was in rinks since, I guess they opened the rinks up last June. Piney Orchard opened, and then Rockville opened a couple weeks later. My kids played in Rockville this past
I had the
year.
golf pro on from Mount Pleasant, so I mentioned the Skipjacks last week, so you can mention Piney Orchard this week. How about that?
There you go. But I'm sitting in Gardens Ice House right now. I got my 9-year-old on the ice. The 11-year-old's going on shortly after this. So, I'm still in rinks. I haven't been to a Cap. Ness, we talk about Caps games. You and I met, what was it, 1985 to right after Pelly Lindbergh died?
September, October 85, I would say yes.
I had been to a NHL game every year since then till the past 2 years. I have not been to a game.
You did go to a game. You went to when the night they rose the flag, right? You went in early 18, October of 18, because they won the cup 3 years ago this month.
Yeah, I did. So I did 5 regular season games that year. I still covered the team for NST. Remember, I was still doing the blogs. And then I covered the Carolina series, and I was so disgusted. And then the garage I parked in that night for game 7, remember when double overtime they lost?
Oh, I remember that.
My car got locked in the garage. I'm like, it's a hassle coming down here. You and I have always talked about it. I mean, the roads are terrible, tears your car up. It's a pain in the butt to get down there. I get home really late. I got my day job I got to do. So I just said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. Right. And it was the year after they had gotten rid of Barry, and I gave him a chance, and it just wasn't working for me. So I have not been to a Caps game in 2 years, which it's the first time since they came in 1974. I can say that. And I haven't missed it. I've missed concerts, but I haven't missed going to the games.
Ed Frankovic is here. He can still be followed out on Twitter. He's still watching hockey. We're still watching hockey. Trotz is still playing hockey and coaching hockey. And I guess when they won the first game, Ed, I guess that was like last Sunday. And I didn't call you right away, and the series has been extended. It's a great series. I hope it goes on all week. It's good. I scored Springsteen tickets last week for July 1st. I actually scored a ticket for July 6th. I think I've sold that one to a listener who's a Bruce guy. It's all cool. But I have 2 tickets on the 1st. And I thought to myself, I started doing the math out. I'm like, if the Islanders win this thing in 6, game 5 might be Nassau of the Cup Finals, might be June 30th. It may be later than that at this point, right? I mean, getting onto the schedule, right? So, like, if the Islanders win, I might be in New York next week, and they might be playing in the – I don't know if I could score a ticket. Like, I would love to see a hockey game in Nassau, like, because of what you're talking about. But the notion that Trotz won the first game, and now, it could go either way. If you're listening and he's already eliminated, we're sorry. If, you're listening and he won, we told you so. How about that? But I thought he's 7 wins away from going to the Hall of Fame. That was what I thought after they won game 1. Now they're 5 wins, whatever it is, right? So if the Islanders were to advance and they were to win the cup, beat Vegas, beat whoever the other side is, Montreal, whatever it is, he's a Hall of Famer, right? If he wins the cup here.
I think he's a Hall of Famer already, Ness. He's won.
Really?
Yeah, he's like in the top 5 of all-time wins, I think, now. He's way up there in all-time wins. So I think
I didn't even do the math on that. So you think that what makes him a Hall of Famer then? He wasn't a Hall of Famer 3 years ago. He wasn't a Hall of Famer just winning the cup with the Caps. If he would have come back with the Caps and stumbled the last 3 years and got his ass thrown out and been a part of this mess and signed on for a big contract, he would have been amazing. He's a disappointment if he's coached these last 3. If that would have been his resume, I disagree, Ed. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a voter. I know a lot more I know a ton about the Football Hall of Fame. I know enough about the Baseball Hall of Fame than how stupid it is. But the Hockey Hall of Fame, if you think he's in, he's in.
Yeah, he's in the top 5 all-time in wins. And to your point, he stays in Washington. I think they win another cup. I think they would definitely win the cup the next year. I think they had a really good chance. They had all bought into the system. They had everybody coming back, and the only thing they changed was the coaching, and they completely fell on their face. So I don't think it turns out the way it turns out with the Caps if Trotz and Lane and Mitch are still here. I think the decision-making process is different. But anyways, he goes to the Island. He's in the top 5 all-time wins. He's got a Stanley Cup. He's got so many years coaching. I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame. I think he will. I think you'll see him voted in at some point, just like Quenneville, even though Quenneville's got 3 cups. David Poyle's Hockey Hall of Fame. He's never won a cup, but he's going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
And Frankovic is here. We're talking some puck and all things. Yeah, I wanted to find these pictures. The thing was such a blur. I mean, I don't even remember it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It feels like a decade ago to me, right? Like we're going back to Vegas for the Ravens games, right? I've had JT the Brick on. I've had Rich Johnson on. My partner, Brian Lease from Roofing by Elite came on last week. He went out and saw the Dome, right? And Jen put pictures up from that week. And I found them. I can't even find them right now on a search. I mean, Facebook, I don't know what the hell happened to the pictures. I need to go through the original pictures. But, you clean your pictures off of your phone and you stick them on a hard drive and you don't pull them out. And my wife was more picture-y that night than even I was, right? Like you weren't, the whole scene. You know where we sat, where we went, the ice. We were out on the ice. We had our cameras. And we did not post a lot of pictures. Like we put a couple of pictures up that night. It was midnight. It was 4 a.m. When we went to the party, I was trying to be like not the guy with my camera everywhere, even though everybody had cameras everywhere. Like I have no video of me eating the Caesar salad and talking to the Stanley Cup, but I did it. And it was right here. Like literally the cup was next to me because that's where Ovechkin put it when he left it, like literally. And I don't have a lot of video picture because I was trying to like not be a jerk. Now I feel like a jerk for not just setting the camera up and just saying, hey, look at me, I was at the party, but I didn't do any of that. And I was at State Fair 3 months ago. You talk about Mike Herr. Mike Herr was at State Fair the other day. I saw his Facebook post. He was there with Wendy and everybody having some food over in Catonsville. I was actually there Sunday. I was there Father's Day before him earlier in the day before I went to Annapolis. And I was at State Fair and my server was a Caps fan. And like, I'm wearing a mask. I pulled off. He's like, hey, you're like the sports guy. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, Trotz. Yeah. And so my wife wasn't with me, and I'm like pouring through my phone trying to find like a couple of pictures to show him because he was asking me, and I found this treasure. I can't find it again. There were like 30 pictures. My wife probably put them up bleary-eyed at the airport in the morning, like literally, like, and I never saw them. They, like maybe I saw them that day, but like she had a roll of pictures I had never seen from the ice. Of Mitch Korn laying on the cup, like all of this stuff. And I was like, wow. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, man, I'm seeing pictures that I never saw of the Stanley Cup night. And I promise you, I've never pulled out my hard drive on it of what I know. I have video of the Swedish guys dancing with the cup on a table. And I don't know. I would have been a jerk to put that stuff up in the middle of the night. But I'm sitting there at the party, Ed, and you're texting with me at 4 a.m, and I'm still at the party. Ovechkin walked out, grabbed the cup from next to me, and walked out with the flip-flops and the hat going to Tiesto. And 10 minutes later, on my timeline, I'm watching him walk through the MGM with it.
Right. Yep.
And that night's such a blur. But I came home, the parade, I attended the parade, I did the parade, Trotz got axed, and I never looked at the pictures again. Like literally, like I just never went back. I still haven't 3 years later. So at some point, I think I'm going to try to celebrate if Trotz wins this series by at least going back and figuring out how much fun I had that night because we had a lot. They won the Stanley Cup and there was an open bar. And the cup was right here. And my favorite part is we're like 2.5 hours into the party and Trotz is being ostracized. Mitch Korn's with his daughter, and it's just kind of us. And Trotz's kids playing video games and his daughters are over and we're like eating some steamship round of beef. And I said to Trotz, I'm like, when's the cup coming to this table?
Right.
And Trotz, like, he leans in, gets his shoulders together. He's like, let me go see what's going on here. And he gets up and he comes back over. He's like, Ovi said he's going to bring it over in a few minutes, And I thought it was literally just like that. And I'm like, well, this is a good night. One day I'll tell Ed this story.
Yeah. Ovi, you could see the bond between Ovi and Trotz on the ice when they won the cup. Right. And to break that, all the years of Ovechkin learning, he finally had a coach he respected. Same thing with Backstrom. And they just threw it away. It was very disappointing. But I remember you telling me that Ovi and the players kept coming over to Trotz, but nobody in management ever came over that night. Remember you telling me that, texting me that.
Dude, I got in an elevator with the two of them at the end of the night, and we hit down at the Mandarin Orient, and Trotz said to me, I'm going to Bellagio and Bet. Throw me a text. Come join me at the table. Let's go hang out. And my wife looked at me and looked at her feet. And I said, let's call Ed. And we called you, and I was talking to you as I was on the conveyor belt at Excalibur. That's true story.
Yep,
Walking out, New York. You were still awake, and I called you, and you said you just woke your kids up and told them, right?
Well, my wife gets on her phone. She says, they got merchandise over at Modell's, right? So they went to bed. They went to bed not knowing. Yeah, by the time we talked, it's 4 a.m, right? So it's almost. I think I slept an hour that night. I drove to Modell's at Arundel Mills Mall. I bought $500 worth of merchandise, right? Cup merchandise. Because I've been waiting since 1974 for that, right? I mean, you and I have talked about it forever, right? So I lay it out. I didn't tell the kids. Christian walks down, my middle child. And he goes, we won, because when they went to bed, they were losing 3-2, right? Going into the third period. They scored 2 goals in the third period to win that cup. And he comes down and he just goes nuts. He puts the stuff on. The other one comes down. He puts it on. It was just, it was great because you got Jen with you in Vegas and I got to spend it with my kids that morning. It was the perfect way to win the cup. I was at the first 4 games. I didn't need to be at the 5th. You were there. You were at the party. Trotz for forever. It was the perfect way to close that season out.
I'm trying to find this whole thing here. I'm going to try to share this, and I hope I don't wind up putting something up here that's stupid. But my wife took these. I've never seen this picture. You see this here?
Yeah, I see.
I've literally. She put stuff up. This is one of those 360 pictures. This was us in the middle of the ice. Am I even in the picture? I don't even know.
Are you filming or is she filming?
No, she filmed it. I've never seen, she said oh, what a night, so I'm going through these pictures that she has. I don't even know. Okay. This is one of my pictures. This is me kissing Trotz at the party. So, wearing my skipjacks thing.
You sent me that one.
There's your boy Kuznetsov, right? So, that's a good one there. We got a cameo back here. Who's that? That's a defenseman from Pittsburgh. That's Niskanen, right?
Is that Brooks Orpik or Nestor?
Oh, there's my wife on the ice with Ovechkin. I've never seen these pictures. This is great, dude. Oh, there we are with Trotzy on the ice after. That's we won the Stanley Cup smile, is it not?
You should get that one framed.
That's a pretty good one. Here we are. Okay, that's Jay, right?
Jay Beagle.
Jay Beagle, right?
My favorite guy to cover of all time, Jay Beagle.
Tell me a Jay Beagle story because he was like everybody's favorite, right?
I covered that guy when he was in Hershey. I'd go up to Hershey every year. The Caps get eliminated before they figured out how to win in the playoffs. And just, he would talk forever. And, everybody had remember the iPhones came out and everybody had all those. Jay Beagle still had his flip phone into 2014. That's just
old school, probably a pickup truck. He's driving Dale Hunter's truck, probably, no doubt.
Yep.
So here we are. There's Ovechkin with the cup and Tony Robbins and my wife taking a selfie with her eyes. So these were the weird things. There's Holtby.
Yep.
Afterward, but my wife put a whole roll up of pictures. Maybe there's a
Kolzig.
Ole Kolzig. There you go on the ice.
Carlson,
man, with his kid with the hair. Look at this.
He's got
we took a lot more pictures than I realized, dude. How about that? That was the backup goaltender, right? That was the German kid, right?
Is that Grubauer or is that one of the younger guys?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm like, and this is my dude, Fred Traub, who once snuck me into the New England Patriots party in Houston with the cup and Kuznetsov having a blast. So, if you're watching out on our YouTube, some storytelling, I don't know. It was a beautiful night. It was a crazy time, I guess, all the way around. Eddie, it feels like a century ago, though, right? Where are the Capitals? You're still a Capitals fan, right? I think regionally everybody out there is, doesn't harbor what I harbor, which I don't like to be lied to. But where are they other than not playing hockey right now? What's the state of the franchise? I don't know much about them. I don't really follow them,
Well, we got the Seattle
Kraken
expansion draft coming up. So someone's going to go. They got salary cap problems because they paid Ovechkin. Well, actually Ovechkin is up for free agency, right? So that's the big thing this summer. That's what you'll hear about all summer. Are they going to re-sign Ovechkin and for how much? And I say there's no way they're not going to re-sign Ovechkin because who's going to go to the games if they don't have him, right? You know how he transformed the franchise and got people in the seats. He's still chasing Gretzky's record. He's not going to get it because he just lost too many games. But he's going to probably pass Gordy. So that'll be fun to watch. So, but they really need to rebuild Nest. They're just too old and slow. They have to really figure out a way to get younger and faster. Their window is pretty much shut, I would say. I don't think they're contenders anymore.
Really? And for Ovechkin to be playing the way he was playing, at a period of time here, I mean, he's playing for a different thing, right? He's all of that. How much more gas does he have in the tank? He looks like he's 100 years old, when you look at him, but he's still playing like a 32-year-old guy, right?
Yeah, he can still shoot. I mean, he can get a shot off from anywhere. I mean, my buddy Todd Button, you mentioned him earlier, he said to me, all these guys are telling me that they can do analytics and by video and telling you who to draft. Todd's in amateur scouting, right? I know you're tight with Phil Savage and these guys on the football side and Eric DeCosta. Scouting is an art more than a science, right? These guys are telling them they can do analytics and stuff. He says, yeah, they say analytics, they can do all this stuff. And he points out to me, he goes, yet nobody can stop Ovi's one-timer from the left wing circles, right? So, there's a certain amount of skill involved that Ovi has that'll just keep him going. And he has missed the last couple of years. He's missed the training, right? The virus has certainly caused him to not get his normal training routine with the schedule. He will get a full summer this year. And he actually played well till the end. He kind of faded at the end. And I think that was his conditioning. So he's been all about the cup, but he's also, I think the focus is going to have to pretty much become the goal scoring record now, because I just don't see this team competing. They just have too many holes now. I thought McClellan did a good job with the defense last year, but the goaltending is suspect. Up front, they had a lot of injuries. Kuznetsov, again, does he want to play? Does he not want to play? There's a lot of people that hope that Seattle takes him. And we'll see. Ron Francis is the GM there, and he's going to be picking. But somebody's going to Seattle. It'll either be Kuznetsov or maybe one of the goalies.
Ed Frankovic is here, speaking truth, as he always does, about the puck. The season has lingered longer. If you're a Trotz fan, if you're a hockey fan, and I'm going to leave it with this because, I can talk hockey and show hockey and be hockey. I think we both can do that. And I've been estranged for all, this segment is a little bit of a coming out party for me to kind of cleanse my soul a little bit about all of it, because I don't talk about it publicly much at all. I haven't had 5 hockey segments in the last year and a half. And if I do, you're the first person I call, and I call Ted Starkey or whatever, or Kenny Albert. And I do very little hockey with Kenny. It's more just talking. But I would say this, I hadn't watched a lot of it. My wife's been having it on. And the other night, I guess it was game 4. The Islanders fans all singing the national anthem. They get the first goal. It's electric. It's crazy. And I think about that Goofy song. The good old hockey game is the best game you can name, and the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. And I don't feel that way when they're fighting and doing stupid stuff and like all that, but the game in flow and the Stanley Cup playoffs in action, even if it's the Islanders and you don't care, the Lightning, and you're like, do they play hockey in Tampa? Yes. Or does it need to be a Canadian team or wearing an old sweater? There's something about watching this level of hockey being played. And it's just, if you're watching baseball right now, no offense to baseball, and I've loved baseball. My last name's Aparicio, right? It's just a better game. It's the best game. And that's to watching the NBA and golf, and I love tennis like all of that. But if you put these games on, games 5s and 6s and 7s at this level, at this time, whether they're being played in April or May or June, whenever, July, whatever it's going to be, it's just such a great game.
There's nothing like the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, I got hooked on the game at 9 years old, dragged to the old Capitol Center with my dad, and it's been my favorite. I was a baseball guy growing up like you. Like, I loved the Orioles. 5, 6 years old, I was the Orioles were World Series champs when I was 5. They lost to the Pirates in 71 when I was 6. I loved the Orioles growing up, but once hockey came, it got in my blood. And that's where I'm at. And then when Rod Langway and David Poile came in and they started winning the 80s, you and I met in 85. I mean, the 80s, the Caps were good every year, right? I always tell Ole Kolzig, if he was 10 years younger or 10 years older, the Caps would have won a cup before they finally won it.
So, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, they just never had a goalie when you and I were covering them, and I was working for them. You were covering them in the 80s. Just didn't have a goalie. So
for every Pete Peters you give me, I'll give you Clint Malarchik and up you. I don't know. That was a little earlier. They weren't really good enough then.
Yeah, Al Jensen. They had a lot of goalies.
Don Beaupre.
Don Beaupre. I still say to this day, Ness, Don Beaupre, had they brought him up in '89, they'd had a chance, right? Because I know that was the year that Gretzky had been traded to the Kings, so the Edmonton dynasty had been broken up. And remember, they got Cicerelli and they got Johansson at the deadline, and they went on a tear, and they finally won the Patrick Division. And I'm like, and Beaupre, I'd seen Beaupre up in Baltimore, had played well with the Skipjacks. And I'm like, they got to bring him down. And sure enough, they trade Malarchuk. They bring Beaupre down. And for some reason, Brian Murray let Warren Strelo pick the goalie, and Pete Peters was just terrible in that Flyers series. Remember that? And they lost.
Well, he had a thing about the Flyers too, because he played there. They were in his head.
Mm-hmm. And so they ended up losing to the Flyers, and then
Hextall was on the other side. He was better, right? He was just better.
Remember, that was Hextall scored the goal in the empty net at Cap Center, Game 5. It was like 9-6 or something. It was
a lonely drive home with Phil Jackman that day. Whew.
Yeah, that was then the next game, Game 6. Rick Tocchet shoots from below the goal line to win that. I mean, my dad got stuck at the toll at the Susquehanna. You were probably in the same log jam with Jackman. It was just like they wasted it. They needed a goalie that year. That was a team that could have won. But 2018 was special, and it has definitely changed drastically in 3 years. It's sad to say, which has impacted you and I, right? We're not as into it. They dissed Baltimore.
I got a funny picture to share with you if you're watching that on video. My wife and I went to Pittsburgh for one of the games. We sat with Mike Tomlin and his wife down in the front, and this kid behind me had this Ovechkin golf club fat head. The good old hockey game. It's the best game you can name.
Yeah, Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff series since the Caps eliminated that year either.
Good.
So it's been all Trotz. Trotz is doing all the winning.
I saw the Flyers went on a tear this year at one point, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then last year, and then this year they had no goalie. They had the no goalie problem. So Niskanen retired, and that just destroyed their defense.
All right, dude. Well, from Tampa to the island to your television to all the memories of hockey games. We can go to D.C. and do other things now. We can go get tapas and have some food, or walk around and visit some places. Take your kids to the Smithsonian. Let's go do some stuff, Ed. All right.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Rip the mask off. We don't need to go to hockey games in D.C. We can go down to the Anthem and see a show or something.
Let's go. Yeah, I'll do that. Or let's go see Let's hit Merriweather this year for concerts right in my backyard.
I'm all over the Merriweather thing. I got Steve Whiteman from Kicks On. We're going to talk some M3 this week. I'm coming for Alanis Morissette without question, and I'm trying to build the James Taylor thing in for my wife. Bruno Mars tickets went on sale last week, and I wound up scoring face value Bruno Mars tickets, unheard of. So we'll be doing that. So this crab cake tour, dude, I'm coming through Howard County. Please come have a crab cake with me, brother.
We'll do it. I'm right around the corner from State Fair too, so we definitely got to sync up here.
All right. Well, I tasted the State Fair crab cake. That was stop number 2. They tried to sneak the peanut oil in under me, but I tasted it. It was delicious. State Fair, our friends over at Frederick Road in El Guapo. I still owe my wife a margarita at El Guapo, so we'll do that. Ed Frankovic has been my friend since 1985, and they said I can't keep friendships, Ed. Who knew, right? So I appreciate you sticking around all these years, and I appreciate the fact that the next time we get together, it'll be probably a beer, but it won't be any of that country music you listen to. No, won't be any of that. No Kenny Chesney for me. I'm Nestor. He's Ed. You can find him Ed at WNST.net. He's also out on Twitter. And if you hear a guy shivering, it's probably Ed at an ice rink with his kid. I'm Nestor. We're WNST.net, AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore positive and BaltimorePositive.com.